interview with Jaimie, Above and Below interview number 1. You want to introduce yourself, Jaimie?
Okay, so my name is Jaimie Diaz, and I am from El Paso, Texas, born and raised. I am 43 years old. So I guess I'll talk about my time in El Paso. So my parents, my dad came over to El Paso from Juarez, Mexico when he was 7 years old, him and his family. So they lived in the poorest neighborhood in El Paso, one of the poorest neighborhoods in El Paso, in the south side. Back in the day, there used to be these projects called the Diablo projects. And my mom, she was born in El Paso already. Her family's originally from Mexico. And they lived in one of the other poor neighborhoods in El Paso, also in the south side, called Segundo Barrio. So let's see here. We grew up pretty much lower middle class. We were in a neighborhood that was pretty safe, really. Not much trouble going on around in the neighborhood. We went to elementary school, to middle school, and then it was around high school where I started to get into trouble. My dad worked as a contractor. He and my uncles back in the late 80s to I want to say the late 90s, they were one of the biggest contracting companies in El Paso. So doing construction, I was around that for a huge part of my life, helping out as a laborer and working on construction sites. I guess my dad was trying to show me that, it's not really something that I would want to get into. He was just trying to provide for us and, have a better way of life. So, yeah, it was around 1994, I believe, is when I took my first substance, which was alcohol. And it didn't really have any effect on me, really. I was just trying to be cool, I guess. But it wasn't until 1996, I was a sophomore in high school, is when it really, really had an effect on me. So yeah, that's where my life started to go downhill. But
after you started to drink alcohol?
Yeah, I guess alcohol is my first drug. And then it was the other ones, weed, and then, cocaine, then psychedelics, and then later on came the meth and the opiates, so it just kind of within 5 to 10 years, it just kept getting worse and worse, So going back as a kid, so we were a family of my mom, my dad, me, my younger brother, my older brother. My older brother is 13 years older than me. And I remember as a little kid, he had his issues with alcohol and drugs, and I would see the bad side of that, and I swore to myself I would never ever become a drug addict or even drink alcohol or whatever, smoke cigarettes, all that stuff. I wanted to be a good kid. So I remember this one night where my brother had been gone for a few days, few nights, and it was me and my younger brother. We were in our bedroom, and then it was in the middle of the night, and we just heard like this loud noise, like there was like this loud ruckus and yelling, and I could hear it was my older brother's voice, and he just sounded like very angry. And my parents got up, and I remember peeking out of our bedroom into the small little hallway that we had right there, and back then they had the telephones that connected to the wall, you know what I mean? Like, and he tore that thing out and he threw it, you know, there was a loud bang, and yeah, that scared the heck out of me and my younger brother. Like, we went back into our bed and we were crying. And then I remember the next morning, you know, like asking like what happened, what's wrong with my brother, and you know, I kind of understood a little bit back then. I must have been like in like first or second grade or something like that. In the, I want to say mid 80s. So that kind of left me a bit traumatized. And then at the same time, like I swore to myself, I had like this conviction, like I'm never gonna do drugs. I'm always gonna be a good kid. I'm gonna do good in school, which I did for the most part. You know, AB honor roll most of the time. I would make A honor roll and played sports. I was known as like this little league baseball star, like back in the day. My dad coached the little league team, as you know, when we were growing up, and you know, I used to love baseball. I did, you know, I was good at it, but you know, like I said, like when I was 16 years old and I became a full-blown addict, like I knew it back then. I was like, I'm gonna live and die like this. Like I just want to get high. I didn't really care about anything else, you know. I noticed playing varsity baseball in high school, like, you know, my interest just was gone. The fire wasn't there anymore, you know, and I cruised along, you know. I still made the varsity baseball team the remainder years of my high school and all that, but like, I always rode the bench, you know, and like my grades were like okay, you know, still A, B for the most part, but I started to slip. And you know, my senior year, they still put me in like, you know, these advanced classes, because like I still made good enough grades on certain classes, you know, like English, math, science, you know, because I liked that stuff. I used to love it. But you know, in the end, looking back at those last 2 years of high school, my junior and senior year, I started getting arrested a lot. You know, I started like getting into fights. You know, I got my first DWI. I mean, graffiti, vandalism, possession, like public intoxication. Like I started building up a rap sheet, and that carried on.
In high school,
yeah.
You started to build up a
Yeah.
juvenile rap sheet?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Even in high school, when I turned 17, like they threw me into county jail. Like, you know, like I started even like as an adult, 17 and 18. Yeah, I started building up even more of a rap sheet, and yeah, it just put a toll on myself and my family, and then it just turned into like this hopeless, like endless cycle where all I wanted to do was continue using drugs, continue selling drugs, continue like just living that street lifestyle, and in and out of jail, in and out of probation. Made a few visits to the hospital, for whatever reason, car wrecks, fights, and yeah, it was not fun, but I used to play it off and act like this tough person and cool, like guess trying to get like street cred and whatnot. So
Sure.
that's like I see it now as like this front that I put on,
Yeah.
this front, right? But so like, and then I also wanted to like talk about like during this time, like like middle school, high school, behind all of that, like that getting the street cred and like acting like this tough person and whatnot, and like playing like sports, like being an athlete, being into baseball and all that, like there is this questioning part of myself that was like not really being addressed because of the culture, I guess, like especially like Hispanic culture with males, and I've had like my experiences like with other males as a young person, being younger in high school. So like I don't really say this much or share it much with folks. I've shared it with like maybe 2 or 3 people, but like for this interview, and for somebody out there too that's maybe had a similar experience to mine, like my virginity, I lost it to like another male, like and that was like back then to me it was like very like shameful, like like, oh, like I don't want anybody to know, or like oh, I am not gay or whatever, like I'm not a homosexual, and I would blame it like on the substances, on the alcohol, on the drugs or whatever, like or oh, that didn't count, like that kind of like I guess self-deception, like just,
So you felt like, so you weren't happy with what you did. You felt guilty and you didn't want to accept it. Is that it?
Back then, that's how I felt. Yeah, 100% back then. That's how it felt. Like I did something wrong. That I shouldn't have done that. But I mean, now it's different. Now it's like I look back at it and like like I'm actually proud of that, because it helped me become the person who I am today. Like, yeah, of course I wish I could have been more brave back then, or courageous, or accepting, or whatever it might be, but like it just didn't happen.
We learn as we get older.
Sure, yeah, and also because of like the culture and the people I was around, it's just like I had to like in my mind I had to keep proving myself that I was this tough person, or I was this very macho masculine person, and by doing more drugs, doing more alcohol, selling drugs, getting caught, getting arrested, like trying to prove myself, that stuff like almost killed me, like it almost killed me. So like
Did it continue to have, like, after your first experience Was it a long time before you had another one?
It took like another 6 or 7 years where like I had like my second encounter, my second experience with another male. If I remember correctly, it was with, excuse me, I think it was with some person I met like at this little club, like this little bar, really close to the neighborhood I used to live in back in El Paso. And like back then at my parents' house, my dad built this little house in the backyard, and I used that room like just to like party, you know,
Sure.
and get high and sell drugs, you know what I mean? Throw parties. And we always had like after parties there, you know, after going to the club or the bar. And I remember, I think that was like my second encounter. I had another maybe like 1 or 2 after that. The third time was with the person for my first encounter. And then I really can't remember like the last one. And that was about it as far as my me having trouble with like my sexuality. I remember during that time in my life, in my early 20s, I would tell people like, "Oh, I'm bi, like I'm bisexual, or like I'm bi-curious," because I was kind of like on the fence, you know, like with that ambivalence, like going back and forth. Like I'm just not sure, so like I'm gonna say like I'm bi right now, or I'm bi-curious, because you know that's when I was beginning to realize like I don't feel right just saying that like I'm straight or whatever, or like, you know, I'm a heterosexual male or whatever, you know.
What are you today?
So today, I am a queer person. That's what I am today. I've learned that. I learned that going on, it's been like 3.5 years now, you know. So I came out as a queer person at the age of 39. Yeah, I was 39. I'm 43 now. So like, you know, I'm going on 4 years as a queer person, and that's just who I am. But like as far as like sexuality, like, you know, I'm not attracted to like masculine folks or like males or whatever anymore, or like, you know, it just doesn't really like turn me on or whatever, you know. So like I tell everyone that like I'm attracted to femme people. So to me that means like any femme person that is, you know, female, whether they're like the cisgender females or the trans females, like, you know. So that,
so you are attracted to heterosexual females?
well, that I could say I am, if they say they are, if they say they're heterosexual females. So that means they like men, you know. Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
right.
I'm sort of like, I'm not completely hip with it all, but I guess what I meant to say was just your typical woman, I guess.
Yeah, you know, like a typical woman, it can be like, because that's pretty broad too, you know. Like a typical woman could be like, you know, a straight woman or a heterosexual woman, you know, and I've had my encounters with those type of women, and when we have this discussion about me being a queer person, you know, and then we talk about sexuality, right? Because like there's presentation, how one looks and acts, and then there's sexuality as far as like what one is attracted to. So like with these typical women that are heterosexual, cisgender, you know, meaning you know, they identify with the sex they're born with. I've had my encounters, or I've had like, you know, my little like flings or whatever. Like we hang out, nothing serious, or I might date them for a little bit, and you know, it's like oh, well, I guess they usually tell me something like, oh, well, then I guess I'm a pansexual, or you know, I'm just attracted to like queer folks too, or whatever, you know, and that kind of changes that scheme of like, okay, I don't know if scheme is the right word, but it's what it feels like it's the right word, the scheme
Sure.
of being a heterosexual or a straight person, you know. But like,
Do you see that a lot?
I think I'm seeing it more often, you know.
Is that, what do you prefer more? That, what we just spoke of, or a gay male? Or
For me personally, like I prefer like queer person for me. And I have a few friends, and they will refer to themselves as like a gay male or a gay man, or like, or I'm a gay woman, or I'm a lesbian woman, you know, and that's acceptable too for them. I think each person has the right, you know, the right, ever since they were capable of determining who they are, they have the right to say like, this is who I am, this is what I am, and this is what I call myself, you know. So like that can vary within, like, you know, the LGBTQ plus community. That can vary to like, oh, like, you know, I'm queer, or oh, like I'm a trans person, you know, or oh, I'm non-binary, or like, oh, like I'm attracted to masculine folks or feminine folks, or you know, they're.
have you ever had a lesbian or a queer woman come on to you? I mean,
I've had a couple, yes. Mm-hmm.
because you yourself like don't. I mean, what are your pronouns?
Oh, so I go by like all of them. So she, he, they. I even go by it.
So
you know,
are a she, and she's a she.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Yeah.
Does it work out like that sometimes?
Just like as a very short term, like, you know, for the moment or for the night or whatever. We might hang out a couple of times. I've had that happen before, you know, like the most recent, like back in March, I had this lesbian woman that I met up with, and you know, we went on like 2 dates, I think, and that was it, you know. And then
was she more of the feminine type?
yeah, oh yeah, she was like, she presented herself very feminine, but like, you know, she had like some masculine qualities as well, like, you know, like this one in particular, like she was a roller derby girl, like, you know what I mean. And like, I like that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, tough girl, you know. And there's a little bit of like macho-ness to that. Like, you know what I mean? There's just,
Buff.
yeah, like, well, she was like around my build. Yeah,
Yeah.
but her legs,
Yeah.
her legs are built. That was nice, you
Yeah.
know, but, like we hit it off like that, and then like just as quick, like that was it. That's what it was meant to be, you know.
Do you
So
feel like your substance use or substance abuse was masking your feelings of shame for a long time, or
yeah, indeed, yes, it was one of the factors for sure. Like, you know, I work a 12-step program, and you know when I got with my sponsor, and especially like working on my fifth step, my fourth and fifth step with him, like, you know, I was able to share with him, like, you know, like, hey, like this is what's been going on, and I've been denying it for like 20 years, pretty much 20 years of my active using, you know. I guess I use that as one of the excuses amongst others, like, you know, why I continue to like use, and you know, and then get strung out and just turn into like this different person that I thought I would never be. You know, it was very scary at times. You know, like looking back at it and thinking about it, it's like wow, like I don't really blame myself or like society or anything like that. Like, it's just, I think it had to happen like that for a reason. But like sometimes I do wish, like, oh man, like if I was just like strong enough to like not care what other people think. That took a long time, but you know.
but now you're golden.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true. I feel golden,
Yeah.
you know, on the inside. Like, I'm not perfect, of course, but I feel like that now because of those experiences. Like, you know, like I could have been gone, you know, dead and gone, or I could have been in a much worse spot if it weren't for me living through that experience, masking that feeling, and then the way it came out when I got into recovery, and having like someone to like not be judgmental with me, and like and assure me that, like, you know what, surprisingly they had a similar experience too, you know. Like, I never would have thought that coming from my sponsor, you know, like when they shared that with me, I'm like, I mean, he's not a queer person at all like me or anything, but you know, just that level of like, whoa, like you've had something like that happen too, like that made me feel like this, like you say, right, like when you said the word golden, like I remember that moment, like I looking back at it now, I felt like, you know, golden now, like, oh shit, like, you know what, like no wonder why like they suggested to do this program this way and to get a sponsor, and like, you know.
So when you came out, I'm assuming it felt like a ton of weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, it definitely did,
But
know.
you were still in your addiction, right?
No, it was way past that. I was like, let me see here, 3 years into my recovery.
Okay. And how long have you been abstinent from drugs and alcohol?
I'm now 6.5 going on 7 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
So what's cool about that is that, so March 2017, that's when I got into recovery. It was late March, and then I came out being a queer person like in early March of 2020. I remember it was right before everything got shut down because of the pandemic. So like I kind of celebrate March every year as like me getting into recovery, and then also celebrating being a queer person.
Before you came out to your family or your parents, were you telling other people that you were bi-curious, like your friends and things like, or?
I told certain friends, not all of them. Like, you know, like I was
strangers maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I did that. I did to a few strangers. I did that, but like when I was heavily into like the rave scene, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's where I felt like I would have been more accepted, of course, because that culture was different than like, you know, what I experienced before that. You know, it was like the gangs and the fighting and stuff like that. Getting into the rave scene and getting to know those people there. Those were the years, because I was into that scene for like 5 or 6 years, something like that. And I felt more comfortable saying that, like, oh, I'm bi, or I'm bi-curious, you know, and like making new friends and telling them that, you know. I felt more at ease by doing that, so, yeah.
Your substance abuse, when you decided that you were going to make a change, or that you were going to reach out for help, what were your feelings internally? I mean, how did that substance abuse beat you down, and how did it make you feel like when you were at your rock bottom? I mean,
yeah, that's a great question, and I love sharing that part of my life because you know, my substance abuse beat me down like so bad, like mentally, physically, and spiritually. You know, like I was working, you know, at a couple good jobs that I could have like got promoted and like make some decent money, you know, maybe even go back to school or whatever. And you know, my relationship with my ex at the time, with my parents, even with my friends that I was using with, like, you know, my dealers, like it's like when everybody's just like closing the door on you, and like me myself like burning down bridges, and you know, running out of like all of my money and my financial resources, and you know, being so caught up and chasing that high again, and chasing that feeling that I once had when I was like 16, 17, maybe even 18, you know. It's like after those years, like, you know, yeah, I would catch that good feeling of being high, but then like a lot of times it's like, fuck, man, like I'm just trying to like feel normal. I don't want to be sick anymore. Like, you know, like I just don't want to like face reality anymore, and I want to be numb, and like, you know, instead most of the time it would just end up in like being blacked out, dope sick, in and out of jail, in and out of hospitals, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I finally was able to like get help from like my mom and dad, who let me in. They always let me in. They did, and I would rarely go back because I knew like the chaos I brought with me. I knew that, and I didn't want to do that to them. But when I was desperate enough, I'd be like, hey, I'm coming over. This is going on. They'd be like, yeah, sure, come on over. And that last time I did that, I was in their living room, and and it's a tile floor, okay, and they threw just a blanket on the floor and a pillow, and they said, okay, well, we'll see what happens, you know. And all I remember is that they were calling places to like get help for me. My dad was calling an old friend from the neighborhood he grew up in that is in recovery, and my mom wanted to send me with my uncle, her brother, my uncle, to LA because like he was like on heroin for a long time, and he got off heroin, and he does some program out there, like he helps out like those people on Skid Row and stuff, I think for like some church. And he wanted to send me over, my mom wanted to send me over there with him. My dad was against that idea. He's like, nah, we're gonna find some place here. So the last day I remember like using my last drug was on the 29th of March 2017, and like it didn't even work anymore. Like I just felt hurt, like, you know, that last hit or that last shot, whatever it was I took, because I was like, that night before on the 28th, like I was taking all these different kinds of drugs, whatever I can get my hands on, just to like escape reality one more time, I guess. Like I was just like almost wanting to end it too, you know, like, but it just didn't work. Like I didn't even get high. My body just felt like shit, and it felt like I was gonna die. And then the next day on the 29th, that's when I went to my parents' house. I was on their floor in the living room. 2 days later, it was a Friday morning, March 31st, and my mom, all I remember her is saying like, hey, are you ready for help this time? Like, we found a place for you. You know, it's a detox. You stay there for a week. Don't worry, we got some clothes for you. We got the hygiene. Like, you need to be there by 9:30. It was like 7 in the morning. And like I was still like going through it. Like it was like rough. Like I could barely see. I think I was still like hallucinating or something, or I don't know. Like it was just like foggy, and I remember looking up at her, and then like, you know, the sunlight coming in from the window hitting her face and all that. Like I had this moment where like I felt so hopeless, so freaking hopeless. And like I didn't know if I had the energy to do it or not, but like this small voice like on the right side of my brain was like saying yes. And I remember like on the left side of my brain, like there's all these voices telling me, no, don't go, don't do it, like you can do this again, like you just need to rest some more, you can go on another run, like you'll figure it out, you got it all under control. And for some reason I listened to that one little voice on the right side of my brain. Like it felt weird that morning. It felt so weird, but I knew something about it, like that I had to do it. I had to just say yes. I had to go with that small little voice. And I looked at my mom, and I looked at my dad, and I said, you know what? Yeah, I'm ready for help this time. And I remember thinking to myself as I got up, shaking, sweating, and like, you know, just feeling like a wreck. Like, it was horrible. I was like, what do I got to lose? Like, you know, like I've always wanted to try it. You know, I was honest with myself at that moment. Like I've been wanting to try it. I remember talking about it with my ex when I was with her. You know, I had put her through so much shit, you know, and we would talk about recovery. We would talk about going to meetings. I used to lie to her about going to meetings just to get her off my back, you know. And I finally did it, you know. And it was quite interesting, you know, that day I went in. Yeah.
Now, how is your life?
So right now, we're in Austin, Texas now. You know, all of this stuff happened in El Paso. I moved to Austin, Texas back in mid-August. My first day on the job here was on the 14th, I believe, of August. And the way my life is now is it's so like fulfilling. Like I feel like useful now, like, you know, and I feel like I have a purpose, and like I have this peace of mind, and like I have this ability to like try and help other people out, you know, and people reach out to me, and I reach out to them, you know, and like I feel ever since I got into recovery and like up to this point now where I'm at here in Austin, like, you know, like I still have a community back in El Paso that loves me, you know, and I love them, and I have a community now that I'm getting to know here, and I feel like I've always been here for some reason, like, you know what I mean, like I hit the ground running. Yeah. Ever since I got here, and I went full speed, and you know I learn as I go, and you know it's just, it feels like I'm a part of something special here, you know, despite like all the BS that's going on, you know, in cities like this, and cities like my hometown back in El Paso, you know, and the state that we live in here in Texas, you know, I feel very happy about what I can contribute nowadays, you know, despite, you know, being against odds, you know, like I still feel like we're gaining ground, and like we're winning, because like I get to do this because of like my experience, you know, growing up as a Hispanic person in El Paso, Texas, moving to a city like Austin, Texas, and then showing myself as I am, you know, as a queer person in long-term recovery. You know, I'm a queer person of color. You know, I have many dimensions to my persona, like, you know what I mean, like I'm a family member, like I'm a friend, I'm a member of a recovery community. I'm also a member of like the pathway of recovery that I participate in, you know, and it feels more complete than it ever has been in my whole entire life, you know, and like I think words don't really do justice to that. It really doesn't, because like there's so much more I would like to like say in words, like, you know, like where I'm at now at this point in my life here in Austin, Texas, like it's like beyond amazing. Like it's beyond a miracle, it's beyond a blessing. Like, you know, those words are great. I love using them, but like there's something else beyond that, because like I guess because I'm excited for my future now, like here.
Me too.
Right now,
I'm excited about it as well, and I'm glad to be a part of it. You know, of the now and the future.
Yeah. So. Right. Yeah.
Is there anything like a burning desire, anything that you want to, like anything else you want to say, or advice you would give to the person who's maybe struggling with the same issues that you were?
I would like to say that, you know, whether there's something we have in common or not, like in the end we do, like just as a human being, like something basic is that, you know, I believe we all deserve to have a peace of mind, you know, and I had to learn that the hard way, you know, and I hope that folks out there don't have to learn it the hard way like I did, you know, and if there's any folks out there that use substances, you know, and that are out there struggling on the streets or in and out of jail, in and out of the hospital, you know, facing whatever stigma it might be, you know, whether you're a person who used drugs, maybe you're LGBTQ plus, a woman, or whatever the case might be, person of color, indigenous folks, like, there's a lot of help out there. There's so much help out there, and like, there seems to be barriers. There seems to be, but like there really is not. And like now that there's folks like me out there that are in the community working hard to break down those barriers for you, just reach out for help to someone, anyone, and someone like myself will do our best to like be there for you and to hold space and to help you make decisions that will help your life become better, to have a better quality of life, and to gain that peace of mind. Because in the end, I think that's the most important thing, is like, our well-being and our peace of mind will make other things fall into place for our future. And that there is a future. There is. I thought that there was no future for me ever since I was like 17 or 18. I thought, I'm gonna die at 21. I know it. And then I turned 21. I'm still alive. I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna die probably by like 30. Didn't die at 30, but like this time, I knew when I stopped at 36. That's when I stopped at age 36. I knew for sure, like, I'm not gonna see 40. I am not gonna see 40 if I continue doing what I'm doing. And here I am now at 43. I look better than I ever have. Ever since I was in high school, I even feel better than that. And that's the one thing I want to leave with any of y'all out there watching this, is that, if a person like me can do this, despite any doubts or any fears or feeling hopeless or whatever the case may be, just try it. Reach out for help. Whatever your goal may be, someone like me will be there to help you achieve it. So,
and if anybody watching is struggling with any of the issues that we've talked about today, please leave it in the comments, and we will most definitely get to you. So, and find you some resources.
Yeah, I'm definitely all for that. Whoever out there wants to leave a comment and want to get my info, like, holler at me. I'm more than, I don't care where you're at. I don't care if it's here in Austin or somewhere else around the world. I do not care. I will be there no matter what.
That's what we do. All right, above and below, out.